side by side, signing off on security and submarines. It's a treaty which will last for 50 years. It is a treaty that will fortify the Indo-Pacific region, and it will strengthen the NATO.
The AUKUS Pact, enabling Australia to acquire, develop, and operate nuclear submarines, raises complex legal questions revolving around the global non-proliferation regime, which has been marked ever since the establishment of the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons, or NPT, in 1968. Hello, my name is Pasha Natarajha Syarief from batch 2022 of Universitas Airlangga Faculty of Law. And in today's video, I will discuss the AUKUS Pact and the NPT regime. However, before delving into the substance, we will view the perspectives of 5 law students in regard to the complexities related to the AUKUS and the non-proliferation regime.
Okay, thank you for the question. I think the NPT, or Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, in this regard is basically an agreement all the major countries that signed to keep new nuclear bomb makers in check. I mean, it says that don't spread the nuclear weapons in other countries and use nuclear energy for peaceful things like power or medicine, and encourage the big nuclear powers to work toward getting rid of their own nuclear weapons over time. And in simple terms, I think the NPT, or basic goals on or NPT itself, is to trade off between non-nuclear countries that promise not to make bombs, and in return they get help with peaceful nuclear technology. And everyone also hopes it pushes everyone toward a world with fewer nuclear weapons overall. I think that's my...
It has a very important role in trying to limit the development of nuclear weapons. As we can see, nuclear energy is a very unstable energy. Without any supervision, without any treaties governing the use of it, we might be doomed. We might fall into an ultimate destruction, eternal destruction even. So the existence of NPT and its derivatives needs to be enforced, needs to be embraced by the world nations, so that we can reach a further peace era and to prevent mutual destruction of this world.
Yes, there are definitely some valid concerns. The AUKUS agreement does involve transferring nuclear power submarine technology, which technically isn't for weapons, but still uses highly enriched uranium that could be repurposed, I think. That current precedent might encourage other non-nuclear weapon states to seek similar arrangement, which could slowly weaken the NPT framework.
I mean, based on the NPT itself, it does stipulate on the nuclear weapon rather than the propulsion system on the submarine itself. However, it does have an exposed danger in which the nuclear technology itself can be replaced or maybe misused by the Australia to further develop their nuclear technology. So in my perspective, it does have a contradiction with the matters itself.
I think it's kind of hard to force a state that has an interest in this case, the America and also the United Kingdom, to make them stop developing a nuclear weapon that might lead to any violation of international law. But I believe there should be, so let's say if there's no other thing to prevent them to keep developing this kind of technology, there should be an independent body, maybe established by the United Nations, to assess or to assure whether their technology will be consistent with the interest of international community. So I would like to suggest that kind of suggestion.
Compiling all interview outcomes, the AUKUS partnership introduces a complex challenge to the existing nuclear non-proliferation treaty framework. While the NPT aims to prevent the spread of nuclear weapons and promote peaceful uses of nuclear technology, AUKUS involves transferring highly sensitive nuclear propulsion technology to Australia, a non-nuclear weapon state. This transfer exploits a legal gray area because the NPT does not explicitly regulate military uses such as naval propulsion. As a result, critical gaps and contradictions emerge, risking misuse and undermining the treaty's objectives. In light of this, I will present the analysis and opinion in the next leg of this video.
To start off, I will first address what is the AUKUS Pact. The AUKUS Pact refers to a trilateral security partnership between the United States of America, the United Kingdom, and Australia. This indeed marks a significant shift in security dynamics, particularly in the Indo-Pacific region. This is also highlighted by Australia's acquisition, operation, and development of nuclear-powered submarine or SSN by the year 2030s. This transfer of nuclear propulsion technology from nuclear weapon states such as the US and the UK to non-nuclear weapon states such as Australia creates major challenges to the existing international non-proliferation framework, especially under the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons or the NPT, as well as the International Atomic Energy Agency or IAEA safeguards. Now, moving on, I will next address what is the NPT regime. The Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty or NPT, established in 1968, is a landmark international agreement focused on three core goals. First, it aims to prevent the spread of nuclear weapons and weapons technology. Second, it promotes the peaceful use of nuclear energy for the benefit of all humanity. And third, it seeks to advance nuclear disarmament among nuclear-armed and non-nuclear-armed states alike. To support these objectives, the International Atomic Energy Agency or IAEA oversees safeguards and verification measures. The IAEA ensures that nuclear material and technology are used solely for peaceful purposes, helping maintain global security and uphold the commitments enshrined in the NPT. Now, let's look at the most significant articles of the AUKUS agreement related to non-proliferation commitments. Three core articles have sparked controversy and concern over their potential impact on the global non-proliferation regime. Article 1 permits the transfer of information, materials, and equipment related to nuclear-powered submarines from the United States and the United Kingdom to Australia. This includes sensitive technology and tangible assets that could potentially be used for non-peaceful purposes. Article 4 authorizes the transfer of naval nuclear propulsion plants and related equipment to Australia for the submarine program. It also establishes obligations regarding the management of spent nuclear fuel and indemnity issues. These provisions raise important questions about safeguards and non-proliferation. On the other hand, Article 6 sets conditions aimed at preventing nuclear proliferation. It prohibits Australia from enriching uranium, reprocessing spent fuel, or developing nuclear explosive devices, ensuring alignment with the NPT. Yet the transfer of nuclear technology for military use remains highly contentious since it involves nuclear material that is not strictly peaceful. And thus, this raises a critical question. Can a mere declaration by Australia or the AUKUS agreement, for instance, not to proliferate these nuclear materials be sufficient to uphold the objective and purpose of the NPT? Now, I will address on the legal loopholes under the NPT in relation to the AUKUS Pact. As established in Articles 1 and 2, The NPT prohibits non-nuclear weapon states from acquiring nuclear weapons and requires them to accept IAEA safeguards on nuclear material used for peaceful purposes. However, the NPT does not explicitly restrict the use of nuclear material for non-prescribed military activities such as naval nuclear propulsion. Due to this loophole, nuclear weapon states, like the United States and the United Kingdom, are not barred from transferring their naval nuclear propulsion technology to non-nuclear weapon state, exemplified by Australia under the AUKUS partnership. To add fuel to the fire, this technology will involve highly enriched uranium, which refers to one of the most sensitive and dangerous nuclear materials, raising serious concerns about proliferation risks. To provide a nuanced perspective, the upcoming video features an interview with Omar Ezra Deniswaro, a civil engineering student at Leeds University and a former intern at Tokamak Energy UK, a leading nuclear fusion company, where he will share valuable insights into the dangers and risks associated with highly enriched uranium, one of the most critical and hazardous materials in the nuclear field.
The uranium itself is not as dangerous, but uranium, highly enriched uranium, is so much more reactive. For example, if you're using in a normal like low enriched uranium, they have like much less uranium 235, so they have much more required energy to go over critical points. On the other hand, if you go highly enriched uranium, they're already highly enriched, so it's just a small reaction to go over critical point. And once you go over this critical point, it's really hard to stop. The chain reaction just keeps going and going and going. So you can imagine as uranium as something like you're pushing a truck down a hill. It's easy to push, but when it starts, it's really hard to stop. So that's why it's very destructive, when you go into like nuclear warheads. But if you look at lower enriched uranium, like in power plants, it's much easier to stop because it's not as highly enriched. So obviously, highly enriched uranium there's a lot of risk associated with it.
Moving forward, it is important to understand the exceptions to IAEA safeguards regarding non-prescribed military activities. The IAEA's primary mandate outlined in Articles 2 and Article 3.A.5 of its statute is to ensure that all nuclear activities are used exclusively for peaceful purposes. However, under Article 14 of Australia's Comprehensive Safeguards Agreement with the IAEA, nuclear material used in non-prescribed military activity or military uses that are not prohibited under the treaty may not require safeguards, meaning that the IAEA will not inspect nor verify these uses. This provision is significant because there is currently no clear precedent or internationally agreed definition of what exactly constitutes as non-prescribed military activity. Australia is currently actively negotiating with the IAEA to classify the nuclear technology powering its AUKUS submarines under Article 14. If agreed, this would exempt Australia's naval nuclear propulsion from routine IAEA inspection and verification. This exception highlights the critical and unresolved gap in the non-proliferation framework, raising important questions about how military nuclear activities are monitored and regulated under international law. Having identified the legal loopholes as well exemptions under the NPT and IAEA safeguards, concerns towards the AUKUS is not new. Rather, the Indonesian Minister of Foreign Affairs, Retno Marsudi, in 2022 have made a statement that any cooperation involving the transfer of nuclear materials and technology for military purposes from nuclear weapon states to any non-nuclear weapon states as increasing the associated risk of catastrophic humanitarian and environmental consequences. On the other hand, Malaysian Prime Minister Ismail Sabri Yaakob in the year 2021 has also made a statement that AUKUS could potentially be a catalyst towards a nuclear arms race in the Indo-Pacific region, as well as provoke other powers to act more aggressively, especially within the South China Sea region. Although other states seem to be supple, the exploitation of the loophole found in the NPT and the application of IAEA safeguards by the AUKUS may not only undermine the objectives and purposes of the NPT, but also possibly sets a dangerous precedent, encouraging other states to exploit similar loopholes under the NPT. To wrap things up, the AUKUS partnership marks a significant and transformative shift in international nuclear governance, particularly impacting the global non-proliferation regime. Australia's acquisition of nuclear-powered submarines exposes critical legal gaps and loopholes within the existing nuclear non-proliferation treaty framework. By exploiting the unclear scope of military nuclear activities, especially involving highly enriched uranium and classified technologies, the AUKUS challenges both the NPT and IAEA safeguards. If unaddressed, this loophole risks setting a precedent that other non-nuclear weapon states may follow, ultimately weakening the non-proliferation regime and threatening regional and global security. Therefore, urgent scholarly and diplomatic efforts are needed to clarify and strengthen international nuclear standards. In response, recommend decisive action by international community to update legal frameworks governing military nuclear technology is imperative. This should include introducing additional protocols or annexes to the NPT, which will explicitly regulate non-prescribed military uses of nuclear materials, such as ones that are utilized in naval propulsion technologies. Simultaneously, the IAEA safeguards must be enhanced with tailor-made inspection and verification measures designed for classified military technologies. Transparency and continuous diplomatic engagement among NPT parties, along with regular reporting to international bodies, will also be essential to maintain trust and compliance. Together, these measures can help mitigate proliferation risks and preserve the core objectives of the NPT for lasting global security.
And with that, we've reached the end of this video. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope that you found this discussion informative and thought-provoking. Until next time, goodbye.